This episode is brought to you by Helix Co., the most advanced time and material ecosystem for ROMs, time and material billing, job sharing, with digital records and much more. Check us out at www.helixco.io.
All right, welcome into a new episode of Restoration Minutes. Today I've got a friend of mine, A.G. Booker, with Ivory Restoration, and he is going to talk a little bit about a brand new startup in a new location. A.G. has worked with me in the past, and now he's with Ivory Restoration when they first started opening up in the Houston market, which is a saturated market. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that he has had and where he plans on taking it. Welcome in, A.G.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you having me.
So when did you basically move over to Ivory? I know it's been about a little bit over a year, right?
Yeah, so I started with Ivory August of 2024.
Oh wow, we're basically a year and a half then, so that's good.
Yeah.
And how long had they had that office open when you went to work there, or did you start, or were you the first guy that kind of helped open it up?
So there was one manager before me. I don't know a whole lot about his history, but Ivory started in Houston around hurricane season of 2022.
Okay.
And there was a guy in place. I'm not sure how long he was there or what he did or anything like that, but I don't think his tenure was that long. And I feel like Ivory may have gone a little bit without, management in place until I came on board.
Okay. Now, was the Houston office first or the Michigan office first?
The Michigan office was first.
Okay, so it's kind of like home base.
That's actually where we consider our corporate office. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. And is that the only two locations you guys have?
We actually have a third in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I didn't see that on the website. So I always like checking up on it and seeing that. Who is your manager there, if you don't mind me asking?
His name's Daniel Willis.
Daniel Willis. Okay.
Daniel
I'm
Willis.
from that area. So that's the reason I went to high school there and actually worked in the industry there for two different companies. So that's the reason I was checking to see if it's someone maybe I knew.
Well, I mean, he's been in the industry for 6, 7, 8 years. Got his career in Serpro as soon as he got out of the Air Force. He basically jumped into mitigation and has been in mitigation for a while. I mean, he's a little bit younger than us, but you may have heard the name or may hear the name.
No, I think the last job that I worked in the Birmingham market was probably 2014, somewhere around there. So yeah,
Okay.
he probably
Yeah.
hadn't even gotten into the industry at that point. I'd already had almost 8, 9 years in. So, well, like I wanted to talk to you today is like, what are some of the challenges that you guys have faced? And a brand new name, opening up in a brand new market. I think that will help bring a unique perspective to some guys that are looking to expand and, where they're looking to move to.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Houston is a great market because it's such a large city, right? And now because the city's so big, there's so many surrounding areas that are trying to get just as big as Texas. So Houston is great. The opportunity is here. The challenges are because it's one of the largest cities in America. It's one of the largest cities in America for restoration companies, right? So that means the saying here is there's a restoration company on every corner, sometimes two of them.
Yeah.
So that's a huge challenge, right? And the guys that have been in this area for a while, their name is known, their brand is known, their vehicles are always on the road. They've got the constant advertising and the brand recognition. And in today's society, being an internet-based kind of business, people are gonna go to Google and they're gonna Google what do I do? And of course, those big names are always going to be the ones to pop up. So the huge challenge that we face is brand recognition, getting our name out there. And then we have to figure out what the separator is between the big names and us. Why should they choose Ivory over a bigger name? Why Ivory? So that is the toughest challenge because sometimes it doesn't really matter how good you are at your job. It's just a matter of what the name on your van says.
Yeah, I know. I've worked for a lot of the big guys, a lot of the franchise groups in my past, and then I've also worked for multiple independents. And some independents were small, and just getting into the industry. And, those were my biggest challenges, and we both worked for an independent. It's one of the largest in the country as well. But when I did work for one of those independents, it was actually in the Birmingham market. They were commercial contractors just getting into restoration. And that's kind of why they had hired me, was to kind
Mm,
of help them go in that direction. And during those days, insurance agents could still recommend you, and
right.
now that's almost like a unheard of thing, but back in the day, we called on commercial stuff because we already had a pocket full of commercial clients that we had built buildings for. So that was a good start to kind of get some relationships going. But the challenge was obviously, even in those days, and sales is just sales. I've done sales at all different levels. But, the challenge was like walking into State Farm, Allstate, independent offices and trying to tell them, "Hey, I'm with XYZ company." And they're like, "You're who?"
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and so you end up having to educate, and so now that insurance agents, do not really, most of them are scared to death to recommend anyone. What kind of avenues sales wise? And I know you had told me before we hopped on that you guys had just hired a new sales guy, but what kind of avenues are you guys approaches that you're taking, and type of targets that you're making?
So we've got a broad variety of verticals that we target. Um, right now, we're probably 75% commercial, 25% residential.
Okay.
So, that kind of opens the doors of who we can go after. But predominantly, property management companies and property managers are our bread and butter. And also, we're dipping our toes a lot into the multifamily realm as well.
Okay.
Um, we still do the old school method of, let's put some boots on the ground. Let's go out. Let's go talk to some plumbers.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's as far as quick business. If you get in good with a reputable plumbing company, that's a good way to start getting your brand out there too. So, like I said, we target plumbers, property management companies. We do multifamily. Yeah, there's really restaurant groups, hotel groups, things like that. And kind of going piggybacking off what we said earlier, being tough is when you are targeting these verticals. They've heard pretty much every pitch there is, right?
Yep.
And I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just trying to find my place on this wheel. And so that can also be a challenge. Is once you get past the gatekeeper and you get to the decision maker, that decision maker's heard this pitch before.
Oh yeah.
So it really has to be the person that's talking to that decision maker versus, hey, just buy this brand that's on my van.
Yeah, oh, I totally agree. One of the approaches I used to take, even and I've even been with a franchise group that opened up a new market, and and what I would do is I would go in, and especially in that Birmingham instance I was telling you about, and I would go in and I would just say, "Hey, I understand that XYZ is your favorite company. That's who you use. And I'm glad you were honest with me. But if they can't ever keep up, like they're covered up and they can't respond, I'd love to be your second option, and that was the approach that I would take is, I want to be your backup. I'm not going to try to
Absolutely.
let me take place of your favorite, go-to guy, but I'd like to be the backup when they can't respond, and then never say when they screw up. I've been with sales guys back when I was a sales manager, when I was first in this industry, and they would try to badmouth other contractors,
And that doesn't work.
or anything like that. All that's going to do is just put you in a bad spot. Same thing like when you interview someone and they're dogging out their previous employer, well, you don't want to hire that guy because he's going to dog you out
It's gonna
too,
dog you out.
even
Yeah.
even if he's speaking the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you
So
100% there.
yeah, yeah. So I definitely know the challenges of that. What about staff size? Are you guys, in a place where you can actually scale rather quickly if you needed to?
Absolutely. We've got a small knit team right now, and it works well. But as far as scaling goes and growing, we have the capacity to do that. We have the capabilities to do that, and we're looking forward to actually doing that.
Okay. And what do you know what I know it was before your time. Do you know what the reason was for moving into the Houston market? Was it just because of the storm event that happened there and there was opportunity, or was there, sometimes I've had people open up offices because they had family there or they were born there, even though they may have actually created their company somewhere else. Do you know what the reasoning was for opening up there?
Yeah, so Ivory has one of our clients is a large restoration company that subs out a lot of their work. So Ivory
Okay.
was started just for this particular a- avenue,
Okay.
and the whole idea was let's put Ivory in Houston, and so we can support the Houston market for this larger company.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. I've
And that
been there
was
and done that.
kind
I
of
worked
the
for a company called National Dry Out, and we did emergency extraction back probably in like 2009 to 2011, I think is when I worked there. I've been in it so many years, they start to blend together, but that's pretty much the same kind of thing we did. If the job wasn't big enough for them to come into town, then, we would set the job up and run the whole job. And
yeah.
then sometimes it was a huge hotel and they were like, all right, you go ahead and suck the water. We'll be there in the morning. Don't set your equipment. We'll set ours. But, hey, we made money. So we were happy, to have the opportunity. So I definitely get that. Um,
And
so,
why the Ivory was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's
no,
why
no,
Ivory was put in Houston was to support this company. But then the vision was, well, if we're already there, let's see if we can tap into the rest of the market organically and grow that way. And that's uh that's why I'm here.
no, it makes sense. Was the Michigan location created for the same reason, or was it just there first and then the Houston was made for the support?
It was created for the same reason.
Okay. All right. It makes sense. Makes sense. So in the Houston market, like you were talking about, is so huge. I mean, so huge. And then you got all these suburb areas, you may want to call it, that have their own little town names, but they're still the Houston market.
Correct.
And I know really logistically from one side of Houston to the north side to the south side, it take you an hour, hour and a half some days.
If you're lucky, sometimes it take you an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah, and so, do you guys try to cover that entire market area, or do you have like you cover your side of it kind of a thing?
Well, we kind of go with the philosophy is how do you eat an elephant,
Go ahead.
right? One bite at a time. That's all you can do. So, the best thing and the strategy that we kind of employ is we'll take the city and the suburbs around it and we cut it into quadrants. And we'll just have one quadrant that we focus on, and then we'll move on to the next one because it's just not effective if you're trying to go from one part of the city to the northern part of the city in the same day. You spend most of your time in the car instead of, in front of people. So what I just make sure is, we've got our route, we've got our map, and we know where we're going to target for that particular day. If we're out doing, some boots on the ground type marketing where we want to go out and meet people and shake hands, kind of things like that, is we need to know every morning where we're going, what side of town is on. We're gonna just focus on that side of town for that day.
No, no, that makes sense. Makes sense. So what besides, the sales and just trying to break into the market, what other kind of challenges do you guys are you facing, as far as like, and I know now you've been there, the office has been there for a couple of years now, but what kind of growth challenges are you finding besides just sales?
Well, let's see here.
I
You know,
know
I
one person that works for you, so I know staffing's been okay. So
yeah, that's. I mean, I've got a rock star team, and so that has been probably one of the best things about this is the support around me. So that's a complaint that I don't have. I think the biggest complaint, though, or the biggest challenge, not really complaint, is technology. As we grow, we're adding all of these employees to our different technologies and our networks, and sometimes technology isn't your friend. But
it's definitely not in this industry, and one of the biggest complaints, because I work at a software company now, is my God, I got to buy this too. I mean, my guys already have to open up 5 apps to do a job. Now it's got to be 6. And it's one of those things that is frustrating. And I know we got the problem. The flip side is that when you look at some of the softwares that try to do it all, well, they
Yeah,
do it all, but they're not great at any one of those
at any one
things.
thing.
And so it's like, how do we, fortunately now that we got more technology, everybody started running into AI, and then everybody started running into integrations. But now there's a major drawback, and a lot of people in the industry, have not actually heard of that yet. Major pullback because of security issues and lawsuits and everything else with private information. So everybody's gone out and created these open APIs, and some guy can just go in and grab homeowner's phone number, their address, photos of their
Everything.
house. That if you got an open API, then all that stuff's available to anyone. And so now what they've gone to is a SOC 2 type of security rating, which we just now finished a couple of months ago. And, we have to make sure that we are protecting personal data. So if someone outside, or we try to make a connection somewhere, that person cannot see personal data unless they're supposed to. And so there's been a major drawback. And so a lot of the franchise groups, for example, are now hiring their own chief technical officers to make sure that they don't end up in that mess, because there have been so many lawsuits flying over privacy issues. And so, although AI has done all this great stuff, a lot of the stuff that you create with AI too, like,
Mhm.
people advertise, oh, you can build an app just by telling it what you want it to do. Okay, well that's great. And, nothing against those guys. I know some people that do that. Um, but you're going to be hard to find that you can build something that is applicable to running a job, because now you got personal information that is out there for anyone to see because you used an open system to create your software. And so,
Absolutely.
but back to your point, it is tough. And training is one of those biggest things, that I think most restoration companies fail at. There are some that are wonderful at it. There are some that are horrible at it. And I don't think there's a particular brand or group that is great at it. It's just hit or miss with, office to office, even
Yeah,
within franchise systems that try to McDonaldize. I mean, some of them are better at training than others. And, the hardest thing with some of these is, like, if it's a software that they don't use every day, is how do you make sure that they're staying up to speed on that one, which is a challenge that we face. We're time and material. If you don't do commercial every day, except for like once every 3 or 4 months, or even once a year during hurricane season, you've got to train your guys again every single year, you
every
know,
year.
using it enough for it to stay fresh with them. So I definitely understand that being a challenge. I just don't know
And
a good answer, unfortunately. I've had this conversation with a couple of people that are in the industry. Some of them are even own their own software companies and are in the restoration company. And we've had these conversations, and it's tough, man. It really is, because
it is.
these days, to be a technician in our industry, you've got to be very tech savvy. You got to be pretty smart, and you've got to know how to document. If you're not detail oriented and you can't handle those 3 things, you're not gonna make it. And it used to be, how much can you lift and can you suck water with a wand? When I
And yeah,
first got
and can you
into it.
work all night?
Yeah, can you work all night and be on
That's it.
call every weekend? You
Yeah,
know? And now, and it's a good thing. I think as the industry has evolved, it's becoming more and more professional. It's getting more recognition. I know the RIA this year is really pushing to try to make it a federally recognized trade, which would be amazing, with its own
absolutely.
SIC code and NIC codes, which would be amazing for our industry. It will actually allow prices to go up, which is like, crazy, but it will, because now you've got actual trades. And it is definitely a challenge to find guys who are wanting to get into this industry, and that's the reason I was asking about that, because a lot of guys, that are wanting to cut like straight out of high school, or, even
Yeah,
after military service, or even after college, whatever the case may be, it's like learning a new language when you come
yeah,
into our industry, even if you
absolutely.
come from the construction field, the restoration mitigation side of things, complete different world.
Brand new. We've actually thought about that, and I've joined one of the local chambers here, and we're actually putting together a an internship program for kids in high school that
Oh, nice.
college may not be for them, and you can't go to a trade school and learn mitigation, but it's a great career. It's not just a job; it can actually be a sustainable career because
Mm,
as much as AI is great, it's not going to replace the human element when it comes to restoration,
no, it's
right?
not,
So
and we're
that
kind of
part's always going
resilient
to
to
be
that.
there.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to actually starting that internship with this local high school. Just, see if we can just help out one person, and do our part for the community too. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, being tech savvy as a mitigation technician is one of the job requirements now, because
Yeah.
especially with us being in a startup kind of smaller company, we rely on a lot of third party, and every third party, to every
Has their own
TPA,
thing.
they have their own portal. They've got their own set of rules. They got their own set of compliances. And so we constantly have to train on each particular one. The best thing is you got to sometimes go old school and just put a binder of the SOP for that particular third party. Just keep it in the van.
Yeah, yeah. And as you grow, there are tools out there, such as like Know How, not really to give them a plug, but I know those guys pretty well too, where you can kind of put all those things in that one single database, and we actually have our stuff in there. We've actually put our training modules in there
Yeah.
as well because we've
Yep.
had several of our bigger clients that, want that information to be available to their guys in the field rather easily. So, there are tools like that, book binders and books. That's the way I started out doing it. That's for sure. And
They
career
don't break
wise,
down.
huh?
Binders and books, the batteries don't die. They don't break down, any of that.
That's right. Well, and as tech savvy as I am, and I feel like I'm pretty tech savvy for most people, and I still like to keep a book, a
Yeah.
notebook. And now I'm trying to move to the Remarkable, which is like a digital notebook, and that's kind of a hybrid between the two. But it's definitely presents its challenges because I still go through tons of post-it notes and stuff like that when I'm at my desk. And, but I am crazy about technology. I love tech, I love all the AI stuff. I've been using
You do,
AI
yeah.
since it
You
came
you
out.
absolutely do.
And
I'm getting on board with it. It's been a slow process for me, but man, it's got some great tools. Been great. You can do some great things with it, but there's
yeah,
also the danger side of it.
oh yeah, there is, and that's the thing, is like there are some modules out there, large language models as they really are, that basically everything you put in there is open for everybody,
Yeah.
and there's actually some lawsuits kind of going against that right now, against a couple of those AIs. But what I really like here lately is, and one of my people I've had on my podcast, David Grove, actually turned me on to it, was Google LLM. And so it's
Hmm.
a notebook. It's called Notebook LLM. And so it does not go out and hallucinate. So that's the cool thing about it. So basically, if you go to Gemini or you go to Gronk or you go to Chat GPT, some of the data that it pulls is stuff that other people put into it.
Yeah.
And so it will do what's called hallucinate. It'll make stuff up, based off of what other people have put into it. Whereas the large language model through the Notebook LM is it only uses the sources that you create or that you point it to. So you can
Huh.
like create one for OSHA, for example, and point it to the OSHA website and point it to any other trade magazines or anything else like that that you want to. And you can even input some of your own documentation if you created things and you build this database. And that's pretty awesome. Then you can go in and ask it to do things and it will only base its opinions in its research off of those things. And so I really like playing with that right now. That's been my favorite one.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look into that. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I really like it for like doing kind of like some deep dives into research and stuff like that. Especially like I do some consulting, obviously with commercial and large law stuff, and someone comes to me and is like, and I'm going to use a dumb example, that way it makes it easy. It's like, I've got a consultant not wanting to pay for water on my job site. Well, I can put that in there and it's going to pull up all the CFR, some OSHA that require, hydration and clean water. It will even bring up the Navy heat standards for, how many breaks your guys should get. And so
Hmm.
it didn't even bring up some female information possibly that reinforces that and shows past where they have actually paid for that. So it's pretty cool, and it just only pulls from the sources I created, but then it spits out an answer without me having to go and flip through my OSHA manual that may be 5 years old.
Yep.
It pull up the most latest and greatest. I can point it straight to the OSHA site. It's pretty cool.
Man, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna see if I can employ that for sure.
Well, AG, give Ivory a plug. Tell us a little bit about you and what your website is, so anyone's listening may want to check you guys out.
Yeah, website is www.ivorypr.com. We're a restoration company. We specialize in water, fire, mold, smoke, hazmat, trauma cleanup, and we also do the build back too. Um, we, by being a smaller company, we're more concerned about the customer, not about the dollar. And I think that's one of the biggest separators between us and some of those bigger names that are out there. Is they care about the bottom line. We care about the person in front of us.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
you
right.
guys feel free to check out our website, look us up, and hopefully call us when you need us.
Thank you, AG. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, thanks, Brian. Have a
All
good
right.
one.
All right.